Have you ever just, you know, paused to really wonder about your own inner world? What fuels that constant human quest for meaning, for self-understanding, for a sense of purpose? It feels universal, doesn't it?
It really does.
Across every culture, every century, people have looked for ways, paths, practices to tap into deeper truths, to unlock something more.
It's like we instinctively know there's more going on inside than what's obvious on the surface.
Yeah, exactly. That inner knowing.
That's precisely what we're diving into today. We're setting out on, well, a really expansive and fascinating journey. We're not just focusing on one single text. Instead, we're weaving together this rich tapestry of thought.
A tapestry, I like that.
Yeah, pulling from ancient wisdom, profound philosophies, and even really contemporary psychological insights. And what's amazing, really, is how often these completely different sources seem to circle back to the same fundamental questions, even if their answers, vary quite a bit. It says something about the shared human condition, I think.
Okay, so let's unpack this incredible collection. What's our mission for this deep dive? We're aiming to pull out crucial, maybe even actionable insights, right, on how we see ourselves, how we engage with the world, and critically, how we can cultivate a richer, more intentional way of living.
Exactly. Think of it as a curated shortcut.
A shortcut to getting informed on humanity's big questions without having to read, well, everything yourself. We've done some of that legwork for you.
Right. And the sources are incredibly diverse. It really reflects this global search for meaning.
So what are we looking at specifically?
We're talking foundational scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, Buddhist texts like the Dhammapada. Then there are mystical Christian works, the Cloud of Unknowing, St. Teresa of Avila's Interior Castle. It's quite a range.
Wow. Okay. Ancient and mystical.
And we don't stop there. We're also pulling from sharp philosophical essays like Emerson's and the Stoic Wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Then we jump forward to contemporary thinkers exploring consciousness and the self-people like Sam Harris, Brene Brown, Eckhart Tolle.
And crucially, you mentioned we'd touch on The Artist's Way workbook by Julia Cameron.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be looking at its core practices, like the morning pages and the artist date, not just as tools for creativity, although they are that, but really as a kind of spiritual path, a way to unblock our deeper selves and connect with that source within.
Interesting. So creativity as a spiritual path.
Exactly. Our goal here is to shine a light on the common threads, maybe some surprising perspectives on these profound human experiences. We want to help you connect the dots between ancient wisdom and modern understanding, and maybe offer some practical tools you can actually use.
Okay, I'm ready. So settle in, everyone, because this sounds like it's going to be an engaging exploration designed to give you a fresh perspective on self-discovery, purposeful living, how we define ourselves, navigate challenges, and connect to something, well, bigger. Let's dive right in then. Maybe start with the most fundamental, and honestly, sometimes the most mind-bending question of all. Consciousness and the nature of the self. We kind of take consciousness for granted, don't we?
We absolutely do. It's just there. You wake up and boom, consciousness.
And what is it, really?
Mm-hmm.
And how does our awareness shape who we think we are?
Well, our sources offer some really profound and, sometimes challenging ideas here.
I bet.
What's fascinating is that even modern science, with all its tools, really struggles with this question. Sam Harris, in Waking Up, he really highlights what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness.
A hard problem.
Or sometimes the explanatory gap. Think about it. How can just describing complex brain stuff, neurons firing chemicals, how can that ever fully explain our subjective experience? The actual feeling of being aware.
Yeah, the feeling of being you.
Precisely. Harris points out, no matter how detailed our map of the brain gets, it doesn't really explain the feeling of seeing red or the experience of joy or sadness.
It's like there's a whole dimension missing from the physical description.
Exactly. That gap between the physical processes and the subjective what it's like is still, profoundly mysterious, even in theory.
That's a powerful point. It really puts things in perspective. It's not just what the brain does, but what it feels like.
And if we look at this from a bigger, maybe evolutionary perspective, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was this Jesuit priest and paleontologist, quite a combination.
Wow, yeah.
In Phenomenon of Man, he presents this grand narrative. He sees evolution not just as random physical changes, but as an ascent towards consciousness, like a purposeful unfolding.
An ascent. So consciousness is developing through evolution.
That's his idea, a continuous refinement, a deepening of awareness throughout cosmic history. And he suggests that this journey culminates in something he calls hyper-reflection or hyper-personalization.
Hyperreflection, what does that mean exactly?
Basically, it's consciousness becoming deeply aware of itself,
Yeah.
not just experiencing the world, but reflecting on that experience, understanding its own inner workings, its unique place in the grand scheme of things.
So like self-awareness squared.
Kind of, yeah, a profound deepening. The universe, through us, becomes conscious of itself. So consciousness isn't static, it's this ongoing development, moving towards what he calls a supreme consciousness that holds the perfection of our own individual awareness.
So our individual consciousness is part of something much, much bigger, constantly evolving.
That's the picture he paints. We're not just observers, we're active participants in this cosmic unfolding of awareness.
Okay, that's huge. And what about the soul in all this? Many traditions talk about an innermost essence, something deeper than just our personality or thoughts.
Right, that core self. Deepak Chopra, in the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, he offers this beautiful description. He describes our innermost essence as being beyond the ego. It's fearless, totally free, immune to criticism, full of magic, mystery, and enchantment. He calls it pure potentiality itself.
Wow, that sounds almost divine, like our true nature.
It really does. And Chopra suggests this essence gives us insight into what he calls the mirror of relationship.
The mirror of relationship.
Yeah, the idea that our external relationships often just reflect our internal relationship with this true self. So if we're carrying around guilt or fear, those are reflections of our own inner stuff, not necessarily caused by the outside world.
So healing comes from connecting with that authentic inner self.
That's the argument. Cultivating intimacy with that pure potentiality. It's a real call to inner work.
Makes sense. But what gets in the way? What blocks that connection?
Well, Eckhart Tolle, in The Power of Now, talks about something that can definitely obscure it. He calls it the pain body.
The pain body, I've heard that term.
He describes it as life energy that has become trapped. Basically, our attachment to old emotional pain past, hurts, resentments, anxieties. That attachment keeps us stuck, prevents us from being truly free in the present moment.
So we cling to our old suffering.
Unconsciously, often, yes. Tolle says the big challenge is to make that unconscious attachment conscious. That's the first step to releasing it.
The idea that we're unconsciously attached to our own pain, that's quite something. Kind of unsettling, actually.
It is. Like, we identify with the suffering, even though it hurts us.
And thinking about the soul's structure.
Yeah.
The cloud of unknowing, that mystical Christian text you mentioned.
Ah, yes. It gives a fascinating, almost practical map of the soul. It outlines the soul's main powers as memory, reason, and will. Those are the principal ones. Then imagination and sensuality are seen as secondary, but still important.
Memory, reason, will. Imagination, sensuality. Like an inner operating system.
Exactly. It provides a framework for understanding how we function internally and maybe where these attachments and releases happen.
Okay, so if consciousness is this complex and our soul has these different parts, how on earth do we trust our own feelings, our perceptions? It feels like there's always this internal filter, this noise. How do we know what's real versus what's just static?
That feeling of static, that internal noise, is so relatable, and many traditions tackle this directly. Conversations with God makes a really useful distinction here. It talks about true feelings versus counterfeit feelings.
True versus counterfeit feelings.
True feelings are described as being born in the soul, genuine, present moment responses. Counterfeit feelings, on the other hand, are thoughts masquerading as feelings.
Thoughts masquerading as feelings. Like what?
Often they're rooted in past experiences or things we've seen others do or just expectations. The example given is like grimacing when a dentist is about to pull a tooth, maybe not because it hurts yet, but because you expect it to, or you saw someone else grimace, or you remember a past bad experience.
Ah, okay, so it's a mental projection, not a direct feeling of the now.
Exactly. The source really emphasizes the challenge, and the solution is to be here now, to stop creating thoughts about a present moment. Just be present and try to discern the true soul-level feeling from the mental overlay.
So we're often reacting to our idea of reality colored by the past or expectations, not reality itself.
Wow, it happens all the time. And Brené Brown's work connects so strongly here, especially in The Gifts of Imperfection. She talks about how kids develop their sense of self-worth and the difference between shame and guilt, self-talk.
Right, I am bad versus I did something bad.
Precisely. I am bad is shame, it attacks your core worth. I did something bad is guilt, it focuses on behavior. It highlights how crucial it is to build a resilient self-perception, one that separates who we are from what we do, and helps us move past those counterfeit feelings of worthlessness.
It's about not letting mistakes or judgments define our core identity.
hmm And in a lighter but equally profound way, the Tao of Pu introduces that lovely idea of the uncarved block.
The uncarved block, Pooh Bear wisdom.
Exactly. It represents our natural state, simplicity, innocence, innate wisdom. The book urges us to recognize what you've got, our inherent talents and goodness and which to do, follow our intuition without overthinking it all.
Like stripping away the layers of conditioning and expectation.
Yeah, getting back to that natural, unburdened self, trusting the wisdom that's already there beneath the noise and the counterfeit feelings.
Okay, this leads perfectly into something practical. If we want to access that innate wisdom, that creative spirit, and get past the inner critic, you mentioned the Artist's Way workbook and Julia Cameron's practices.
The morning pages, right?
Yes, the morning pages. They're a core tool in the Artist's Way, and they connect directly to what we've been discussing. The workbook describes them as a kind of daily voiceover, capturing exactly that mental static you mentioned.
Like, I forgot the milk, I need to call my mom, the car sounds funny, all that stuff.
All that stuff. Cameron calls the pages a catcher's mitt for these concerns and much more. The practice is simple but powerful. 3 pages, written longhand, stream of consciousness first thing in the morning.
Just write whatever comes out, no editing.
None. No matter how whiny, petty, angry, or just plain weird it seems, you're not trying to create literature. You're just putting it all onto the page to release them, emptying the mental clutter.
Flushing out the psychic debris, as she puts it. Exactly. So you can move into your days with fresh eyes, with a clearer connection to your intuition, your creativity. It might start like, ugh, tired, don't want to write, that meeting yesterday, just whatever's there.
A friend of mine who does them calls it digging out the gunk.
That's a great way to put it. It stops those anxious or depressive thoughts from just festering inside. And this ties right back to Conversations with God, which warns that negativity kept in harms the body and burdens the soul.
So morning pages are a way to actively not keep it in, to process and release it.
Precisely. It's a powerful, almost meditative practice for acknowledging those critical voices, those burdens, without letting them run the show. It clears the path. It's fundamentally a spiritual practice for unblocking.
It's like weeding the garden so the actual flowers, the creativity, the authentic self can actually grow. I love that.
And while the morning pages clear the inner landscape, the Artist's Way has a companion practice for nurturing that creative spirit.
Ah, the artist date.
The Artist Date. It's this intentional weekly solo trip. Just for you. Solo is key. Absolutely key. You go do something purely because it delights or intrigues you, something that feeds your sense of wonder. It could be anything: wandering through an art gallery, visiting an old bookstore, walking by the ocean, exploring a quirky neighborhood.
No practical agenda, just fun.
It's fun. It's just exploration, like a little kid. It's about actively listening to and feeding that innermost essence we talked about, the one full of magic, mystery, and enchantment.
It's like refilling the creative well.
Exactly. It's not about finding inspiration for a project necessarily. It's about remembering joy, reconnecting with curiosity, acknowledging that your creative soul needs regular, gentle care. It counteracts the inner critic, the pain body, by filling you with positive, enriching experiences.
So morning pages clear the channel, artist dates fill the well.
Beautifully put. They're twin pillars, really, helping us bypass the inner critic, reconnect with that deeper, maybe divine source of creativity, and start walking these pathways to transformation. They give us practical ways to build that inner strength and find purpose.
Okay, so we've explored the self, the consciousness puzzle, and even ways to clear out the inner clutter with practices like morning pages and artist dates. But if we want to go deeper, to truly transform, what do these diverse traditions offer as pathways? There seem to be so many paths offered towards inner peace, towards change. Do they share common ground? Is there a kind of universal blueprint?
That's a huge question. And yes, if you look closely, certain themes definitely emerge again and again. Balance is a big one. Buddhism, for example, as highlighted in 12 major world religions, really emphasizes the balanced middle way.
The middle way, avoiding extremes.
Exactly. Avoiding both excessive indulgence, luxury, and extreme self-denial or austerity. It's seen as the direct route to peace and happiness.
Yeah.
And radical acceptance really illustrates this with the story of Siddhartha himself before he became the Buddha.
His own journey.
Yeah. He started out life entranced by pleasure, living in incredible luxury. Then he swung completely the other way, into severe austerity, starving himself, pushing his body to the limit.
Trying both extremes.
Right. And he found that neither one brought liberation. His great insight was realizing that freedom lay in the middle, in finding that harmonious balance.
That search for balance feels really fundamental.
Yeah.
And it seems more subtle than just avoiding extremes, right? It often involves some kind of detachment.
Absolutely. Not necessarily giving up everything physically, but a profound inner shift.
Like in the Bhagavad Gita.
Precisely. It talks about renunciation, tyaga, and the renounced order of life, sannyasa. But the emphasis isn't just on, leaving home and possessions. It's more about inner detachment from the fruits of your actions.
Acting without being attached to the results.
Yes. Performing your duty, doing what needs to be done, but without that ego-driven craving for reward or fear of failure. Cultivating a position above the ups and downs of the material world. It's about freeing yourself from that cycle of desire and suffering.
But detachment can be tricky. Dietrich Bonhoeffer had some strong words about that, didn't he?
He did. In The Cost of Discipleship, he really challenges what he saw as superficial inward detachment. People claiming to be spiritually detached while still clinging tightly to their possessions or worldly comforts and practice.
Like a spiritual loophole?
Kind of. Bonhoeffer insists that true obedience, in a Christian context, means single-minded obedience to the word of Jesus. It implies a radical, lived commitment, a complete reordering of priorities, not just a mental attitude. It has to be real.
So it's not enough to say you're detached. It has to show up in your life, in your choices.
That's his point. Which leads us to some of the more, let's say, intense paths of detachment found in mysticism.
Like St. John of the Cross, that dark night of the soul.
Exactly. He describes these incredibly difficult periods, aridities, and temptations as a necessary purgation and night of sense. It's a process where the soul is stripped bare of its attachments, even attachments to spiritual comforts, consoling thoughts, familiar practices.
So everything gets taken away.
In a sense, the imagination and faculties are no longer bound by meditation and anxiety of spirit. It's about reaching a deeper, more direct connection with the divine, beyond the usual supports.
Wow. And St. Teresa of Avila, in the interior castle.
She describes souls reaching such profound detachment that they've effectively trampled on the world, placed it under the feet of her affection. They see worldly things as vile, as folly. This isn't about hating the world, but about seeing through its illusions.
And this brings peace.
Profound peace, she says. An unshakable union with God's will, where earthly troubles just can't touch that deep inner core. It's a total surrender of personal desire.
These sound like very, very advanced states, complete reorientations of being. It makes you think about everyday love, natural affection for family, friends.
Yeah.
How does that fit?
That's a really important question. C.S. Lewis tackles it in The Great Divorce. He explores the challenge of our natural affection evolving into eternal love.
Natural affection turning into eternal love.
Yeah. He points out how hard it is to detach from even good worldly attachments. Love for family, country, if they become ends in themselves, if they get mistaken for the heavenly.
So even good things can become obstacles.
Lewis argues yes, if they resist being transformed, if they stay self-centered or possessive. He even suggests that corruption can be worse than that of lower passions if they keep us from higher love. It's a warning about not letting good things become idols, essentially.
Wow. Don't let the good become the enemy of the best. Okay, so this path of balance, detachment, reorienting our affections, it's not about denial, but transformation. How do we actually do it day to day? Does it need rigid discipline? Or is it more about a shift in mindset?
Often it seems to be a blend of both, but discipline needs careful understanding. The Four Agreements, drawing on Toltec wisdom, describes a warrior's path involving awareness and control over one's own emotions.
Control. Like suppression.
No, crucially not suppression. The word used is refraining. It means expressing emotions consciously, in the right moment, not before, not later.
Conscious choice. Impeccability.
Exactly. It's about mastering your inner state so you can respond intentionally, not just react impulsively. It's inner strength allowing for right action.
That difference between repression and refraining is huge. It's about mastery, not denial.
And Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary swordsman in The Complete Musashi, talks about his way of combat, Heihu no Michi. He says it's a strategy that goes way beyond sword fighting.
Applicable to life in general.
Yes. He says the principles for victory in a duel also apply on the battlefield of life's challenges, personal, professional, whatever. And the absolute foundation for this way, he stresses, is a sincere heart.
A sincere heart. not just skill or technique.
Right. True discipline, true strategy comes from inner integrity, clarity of purpose, and an honest engagement with reality, not just brute force or following rules blindly.
Sincerity, awareness, honesty. This really points to the power of our inner state, our thoughts, our intentions.
Absolutely. And it's striking how many sources emphasize this power of thought and intention. Deepak Chopra, back in the Seven Spiritual Laws, states flat out, the intention behind your giving and receiving is the most important thing, and thought has the power to transform.
The energy behind the action matters most.
Yes. It's not just what you do, but the awareness, the purpose, the intention you bring to it. Conversations with God takes this even further. It calls thought control the highest form of prayer.
Thought control is prayer. Wow.
It urges us, think only on good things and righteous, and imagine only what manifestation of perfection you choose next. The implication is profound. Our thoughts aren't just passive commentary. They are active, creative forces shaping our reality. We are co-creators.
We're actively creating reality with our thoughts and intentions. That's a massive responsibility and power.
It is. And Gary Zukov in The Seed of the Soul reinforces this directly. All effect is created by thought, and that manifestation is a result of intention. So if we truly want to cultivate inner strength, purpose, transformation, we have to become incredibly mindful, incredibly deliberate about our thoughts, our focus, our intentions.
It sounds like a demanding path. Self-examination, conscious intention, transformation. And often, it seems like these paths involve struggle, don't they? Is suffering just part of the deal for growth?
That's such a critical question, the role of suffering. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, offers incredible insight here. Drawing on his horrific experiences in the concentration camps, he shows how people can find meaning even in the most extreme suffering.
Finding meaning in suffering, not just despite it.
Yes, he gives examples of people facing long-term illness, like difficult cancer treatments, who just rose up by finding purpose within that ordeal. For some, it was wanting to witness future happy family moments. For others, unfinished work, or even just the dignity in how they endured their suffering.
So the meaning came from their attitude towards the suffering.
Largely, yes. Frankl demonstrated this profound human capacity to transcend hardship. Not by escaping it, but by finding a why, a deeper purpose within it. Suffering might be unavoidable, but despair, he suggests, is a choice.
That's incredibly powerful. It reframes pain completely.
It does, and the mystics like St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa echo this in their descriptions of spiritual transformation. They see suffering, the afflictions and constraints, the grief and anguish as a necessary part of the soul's purification. It's purgation on the way to union with God.
A refining fire, almost.
Exactly. St. Teresa notes that while these trials are hard on our senses and faculties, they're not meant to disturb the absolute center of our soul. They're meant to purify and prepare that center for deeper peace, for union with the divine. The suffering isn't the goal. It's a demanding process towards profound growth. A spiritual crucible.
So again, it's not about avoiding pain or just gritting your teeth, but understanding its potential role, maybe even embracing it as part of the journey towards something deeper.
Precisely. And on a very practical level, conversations with God gives that direct warning we touched on earlier. Negativity kept in harms the body and burdens the soul.
Right, don't keep it locked inside.
It implies that facing and releasing those difficult feelings, even though it's painful, is crucial for our well-being and progress. It brings us back to practices like the morning pages, getting the negativity out, acknowledging it without letting it define you, is an essential step. It's that process of inner alchemy, transforming the lead of suffering into the gold of wisdom.
Okay, as we've gone deeper into the self and these pathways of transformation involving balance, detachment, even suffering, it really begs a bigger question. How do these inner shifts change our view of the universe, our place in it? Does it lead to a feeling of greater connection, a different understanding of reality itself?
Oh, absolutely. If you zoom out, a theme that resonates across so many of these diverse traditions is interconnectedness, the unity of all things.
Interconnectedness, that feels central.
It really is. Buddhism, for instance, has the interconnectedness of all things as a core ethical principle. It's not just abstract philosophy, it shapes their entire worldview, their compassion. And Michael Pollan, in How to Change Your Mind, talks about how this sense of interconnectedness can become a profound, direct experience.
Through psychedelics, in his case.
Yes, in guided therapeutic settings. He describes people experiencing an expansion of self, moving from the first-person singular to the plural and beyond. He says the idea of unity stops being just a platitude and becomes deeply felt, becomes flesh, a visceral, undeniable reality.
Yeah, moving beyond intellectual understanding to direct knowing. That's powerful.
It is, and Conversations with God states this unity even more directly, more personally.
How so?
It just proclaims, you and I are one,
Yeah.
simple as that. And it encourages cultivating an awareness of oneness and a consciousness of love.
Uh,
It's presented not just as a nice idea, but as the fundamental truth of reality, a state of being we're invited to live from, radical unity.
okay, so interconnectedness, oneness. And many of these texts talk about God or a divine source. How do they approach that? Is it one idea or many different ones?
That's where it gets really fascinating. The understanding of the divine varies hugely, yet often points towards an ultimate, maybe unknowable mystery. Karen Armstrong, in The Case for God, makes this point really clearly. She says God cannot be classified as this or that sort of thing.
Not something we can put in a box.
Exactly. She argues that all the traditional philosophical proofs for God's existence don't actually prove an entity exists in the way a table exists. They merely demonstrate the existence of a mystery, an ultimate reality that inherently transcends our human concepts and definitions.
So the focus shifts from proving something to encountering mystery. I like that.
It reframes the whole thing, and then Conversations with God throws in this really radical idea about our relationship with that mystery.
Which is,
It suggests, quite startlingly, you are creating God.
we are creating God. How does that work?
The idea is that God expresses himself in, as, and through you. And crucially, you are always at choice as to how God will be created through your thoughts, words, actions.
So it's a co-creation.
A profound co-creation. Life is seen as a tool for God to turn concept into experience, and for us to do the same. Because ultimately, you are God doing this. It's a very active, participatory view of divinity.
That's mind-bending. How does that compare to, say, the Quran?
Well, the Quran emphasizes a very deep sense of personal responsibility in relating to divine truth. It states, "Whoso embraces guidance for his own soul's good. Whoso goes astray leads his own soul astray, nor am I your guardian."
So it's on you. Your choices determine your path towards God's guidance.
Right. It underscores individual accountability on the spiritual path. So you have this co-creative idea on one hand and this strong emphasis on personal responsibility on the other. Different angles, both pointing to our active role.
Different lenses on the same ultimate reality, maybe?
Perhaps. And then you have paths, like in the Bhagavad Gita, where Kant is presented as the personal master of all senses.
Mm-hmm.
The path there involves surrender, devotion, bhakti yoga, thinking of him always, offering all actions to him, a very personal, devotional relationship.
And compare that to someone like Black Elk.
Exactly. In Black Elk Speaks, you see this profound animistic connection to the natural world. The rituals he describes filling the sacred pipe, offering it to the four quarters, the spirit above, Mother Earth, show deep reverence for the spirit in all things, the interconnectedness of life.
So many different ways to connect beyond the individual self. Surrender, co-creation, reverence for nature.
Mm-hmm. All pointing towards something larger.
And it seems these big ideas, divinity, interconnectedness, are often transmitted through stories, through rituals. What's their role in making this stuff tangible?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, talked about this extensively in The Power of Myth. He said the artist's function is the mythologization of the environment and the world, creating the stories that help us understand our place.
Mythologization, making meaning through story.
Yes. And then he defines ritual as an enactment of a myth. Through ritual, we don't just hear the story, we participate in it. We enter the mythological life, and through that participation, we learn to live spiritually.
So myths give the blueprint, rituals let us live it.
Beautifully put. Rituals are the bridge between the sacred story and our everyday lives. They make the myth real, experiential.
And Black Elk's descriptions really bring that to life, don't they?
Vividly. When he describes the dance with the horses, milling round and round the six grandfathers and the virgins, or his vision of the flaming rainbow, these aren't just tales. They are profound spiritual experiences, deeply tied to his community, the land, the natural world.
They show how myth and ritual connect individuals and whole communities to the universal, the divine, grounding these huge concepts in lived reality.
Exactly. They're tangible, embodied ways of interacting with the sacred.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground from consciousness inside us to the interconnected universe outside. But how does all this high-level stuff actually cash out? How do these grand ideas translate into our daily choices, our ethics, how we live day to day?
That's the crucial link, isn't it? Bringing it down to earth. And someone like Ralph Waldo Emerson really champions this practical wisdom. In his essays, he emphasizes earning the just fruit of his own labor and self-denial. He stresses the need for prudence.
Prudence like being careful with money.
Yes, but also with time, energy, resources. He urges us to always keep the eye of prudence open. He sees wisdom in private economy just as much as in running an empire. It's about those small, consistent, disciplined habits. He loves the image of the farmer sticking a tree in the ground between whiles because it will grow whilst he sleeps.
Ah, the power of small, consistent actions compounding over time.
Exactly. It's not just about being frugal. It's a conscious, intentional way of living, respecting resources, understanding long-term effects.
It's a very grounded approach, connecting daily habits to a bigger philosophy.
hmm And you find echoes of this even in unexpected places, like Tamar Adler's cookbook, An Everlasting Meal.
A cookbook, how does that fit in?
She talks about being frugal with your movement in the kitchen, valuing simple, sturdy, steadying meals made from basic ingredients, even canned fish.
So efficiency, resourcefulness.
Yes. It connects to this broader philosophy of economy, grace, minimizing waste, maximizing value. It suggests simplicity isn't just practical, it can be a form of wisdom.
And this links to bigger issues too, right? Like sustainability.
Directly. The book Less is more explicitly proposes things like a cap on annual resource use and waste as an ecological necessity. The argument is this could push us towards dematerialized GDP growth, where well-being increases without constantly consuming more stuff.
So personal frugality connects directly to global health.
It shows how our individual choices, scaled up, have huge societal and planetary consequences, that interconnectedness again.
It really does all tie together. Okay, what about how we treat each other? Our communication, our relationships, especially when things get difficult.
Ah, yes. How do we bring this wisdom into our interactions? Conversations with God offers really specific guidance on loving communication. It says, communicate your truth, yes, but do it lovingly, compassionately, how sensitively, how courageously, and how completely.
So honesty, but with care. Avoid half-truths or brutal truth.
Exactly. The intention behind the words should always be love, even if the message is tough. And it also advises, as we discussed, expressing negative feelings internally to release them because keeping them in harms you. But you don't necessarily have to dump every negative thought on the other person. Unless not sharing it would compromise your integrity or cause another to believe an untruth. It's a careful balance between self-processing and relational honesty.
That takes real self-awareness.
Right.
Knowing when to process internally versus when integrity demands speaking out lovingly.
It does, and foundational texts echo this need for compassion. The Torah in Leviticus gives that ancient command. Thou shalt not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Love your neighbor as yourself. The bedrock.
The bedrock of ethical conduct, forgiveness, empathy. And the seat of the soul pushes us even further. It encourages moving beyond fear, judgment, and disdain towards reverence for others.
Reverence.
Seeing everyone as a soul wearing an earth suit. Imagine how that perspective could change our interactions. Deep respect for the inherent divinity in everyone.
Wow. Seeing the soul beneath the personality? That's transformative.
It really is.
These frameworks are powerful for personal relationships, but some sources tackle really tough societal issues, prejudice, political division. How do we engage with those using this wisdom without getting lost in the conflict?
That's incredibly challenging and requires careful navigation and impartiality when discussing the sources. James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time is a searing example. He describes with such power the merciless formulation of racial hatred and the indescribable struggle of Black Americans against systemic prejudice and the denial of their very humanity.
It's incredibly powerful writing.
It is. Baldwin details the terrifying odds and the profound dignity forged in that struggle. He argues forcefully that a white society's inability to see Black people as equals ultimately damages its own soul, its own freedom.
He connects individual prejudice to the collective soul of the nation.
Deeply. Now, it's absolutely crucial for us to state we are reporting on the powerful perspectives articulated within Baldwin's work here, detailing the historical and ongoing impact of prejudice as he presents it. We are endorsing a political stance, but conveying the vital content of the source itself.
Understood. Impartial reporting of the source's perspective is a stark reminder of how deep these issues run and how personal and systemic they are simultaneously.
Indeed. And Conversations with God also touches on societal roadblocks, looking at political leaders. It mentions figures like Bush Sr., Gorbachev, Jimmy Carter, who proposed, in the source's view, massive movements away from the prevailing political structure. Bold visions.
But they faced resistance?
Often soundly rejected at home, the source argues, because their vision was miles ahead of their people who were caught up in limited parochial concerns. Again, reporting the source's analysis here, it suggests the ultimate solution isn't just political tinkering.
What is it then, according to the source?
A fundamental shift, a new awareness and a new consciousness, an awareness of oneness and a consciousness of love, a transformation in how we see ourselves and each other.
A call for collective evolution of consciousness to solve political problems.
That's the essence of it. And Emerson, writing much earlier, offered his own critique of politics that feels very relevant.
What did Emerson say?
He criticized political parties that abandon deep natural ground fundamental principles just to follow a leader or pursue personal considerations.
Yeah.
He saw how easily things degenerate into being about personalities rather than principles, defending points that aren't core to their supposed values.
That sounds familiar.
Doesn't it? His observation about abandoning principles for short-term gain or emotional appeals highlights how easily true progress gets blocked. It circles back to that need for inner sincerity, for alignment with deeper truths, both for individuals and for society.
Wow. We have covered an incredible amount of territory today. Seriously diverse, profound landscapes of thought, from the deep inner workings of consciousness, the self, out to the interconnected universe, and then right back down to earth into the practicalities of daily life. Prudence, loving communication.
It's been quite a journey.
A real deep dive, offering so many different angles on what it means to be human, to live meaningfully.
It really has. And if you connect all these dots, you see this fascinating convergence. So many traditions, using different words, different cultural frameworks, but pointing towards this profound inner wisdom that's available to all of us.
Like common threads running through that tapestry you mentioned.
Exactly. Whether it's the Buddhist path to freedom from craving in the Dhammapada, or the Hindu yogi's liberation through detachment in the Gita, or the Christian mystic seeking union with God's will in interior castle or the cloud of unknowing, or the Taoist finding wisdom in the uncarved block, that simplicity from the Tao of Pu.
What's a common thread you see?
It always seems to come back to cultivating deeper self-awareness, committing to intentional, purposeful action, and making this steady move towards greater compassion, greater truth in everything we do. It's about realizing that so much of what we chase externally is actually found by looking within, by aligning with our truest, most authentic self.
And just to reiterate for everyone listening, this deep dive wasn't about saying this is the one right way. Our goal is more to equip you with a broader, richer understanding of this ongoing human quest for meaning. Drawing connections, maybe surprising ones, between ancient wisdom and modern thinking. Offering tools, whether it's the spiritual technology of morning pages and artist dates, or profound insights on oneness tools for navigating your own inner and outer worlds.
It's all about helping you cultivate that richer, more intentional existence, embracing your own unique potential, creatively and spiritually.
So as we wrap up, maybe something to chew on, a final thought for you to take away and explore on your own.
Okay, here's a provocative thought, building on everything we've touched on today. If the universe, as some suggest, is constantly evolving, constantly expanding towards higher consciousness, and if, as other sources propose, we are actively co-creating the divine, co-creating reality in every single moment through our choices, our thoughts, our intentions, then the question becomes, what grander vision of yourself and of our collective future will you choose to manifest next?